Session for the 31st Guam Youth Congress is hereby called to order. I call on Representative Keandra McDonald to lead in prayer.
Everyone bow your heads, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, please guide us today in making sure that we make all the right decisions from our heart and make sure that we all leave here safely, and all the endeavors that we're going to do, please guide us. Thank you. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I call on Representative Stiles for the national anthem.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I call on Representative Plus for the Guam hymn.
Fanogi chamoru purita notam kantana tunonya itoru ilugan para iontra para gloria abiba isla semparan para iontra para gloria abiba isla semparan utodu i tempo i paz para ita San giligilan in the bendition contra pilgrim nafas afuham dus puteri islang Guam contra pilgrim nafas afuham dus puteri islang Guam.
I call on Representative Makepeace for the Unifresi.
Unifresi.
Thank you. You may be seated. Moving on to roll call. Could I get a roll call, please?
Representative Adawag, Representative Angara, Representative Carranza, Representative Casilla, Representative Chan, Representative Delory, Representative Dichoso, Representative Fajarin, Representative Felicen, Representative Labang, Representative Lorenzo, Representative Makepeace,
Present.
Representative Keandra McDonald,
Present.
Representative Kenny McDonald, Representative Perez, Representative Plus, Representative Quintanilla, Representative Richards, Representative Rigetti, Representative Rosario, Representative Santos, Representative Stiles, Representative Valencia. Mr. Speaker, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to call for approval for the Legislative Journal. Representative Valencia, you are recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to waive item number 7, call for approval of the Legislative Journal.
There's been a motion to waive item 7, call for the approval of the Legislative Journal. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Moving on to communications and petitions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion to waive items 8, 9, 10, and 11 of the legislative session agenda.
There's been a motion to waive items 8, 9, 10, and 11 from the legislative agenda. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Moving on to item 12, introduction and first readings of bills and resolutions.
Resolution number 7-31, as introduced by Representative Javen W. Santos, relative to adding a new section 6.04.10 and amending subsection A of section 15.03 of Iminay 31 na Kongresun Manhobengwahan Odin Akramento 31st Guam Youth Congress Standing Rules in order to ensure that representatives are fulfilling their duties of representing their constituents through legislation.
Representative Keandra McDonald, you are recognized.
I would like to make a motion to introduce Resolution 8-31, notwithstanding rules.
There has been a motion to introduce resolution number 8-31, sponsored by Keandra McDonald and Representative Javen Santos, to the agenda, notwithstanding House rules. Is there anybody opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Could I get a first reading of Resolution 8-31?
Resolution number 8-31, as introduced by Keandra M. McDonald and Javen W. Santos, relative to removing Representatives J.C. Chan, Al Labang, and Ethan Perez of the 31st Guam Youth Congress due to no longer being qualified to serve as a member of the body.
Okay. Could I have Representative McDonald take the chair?
Speaker Santos, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to move Resolution 7-31 to the second reading file.
There has been a motion to move Resolution 7-31 to the second reading file. Is there anyone opposed? No objections, then motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I introduced Resolution 7-31 to amend standing rules for the reason that I would like to see more involvement in the representatives. I feel as though Youth Congress is a vehicle for the youth's voice, and I would like the youth's voice to be heard on a variety of issues, and it just strikes me as a little bit disappointing when we have such a difficult time getting legislation for the agenda in the first place, when we have all been elected to represent the constituents, and we by now know what being a part of the Guam Youth Congress entails. So this resolution is seen as a way to encourage, through enforcement of the rules, that more legislation can be drafted and more issues that are prominent to the youth can be heard. And not only that, but we get a variety of voices, and when you get a variety of voices, we hope to get a variety of different solutions that we can all work on together to solve as a body. So by enforcing this rule that has each representative become a sponsor of a bill or resolution at least 6 months in order to continue to be qualified as a Youth Congress member, I find that by adding this stipulation to the rules will fulfill that purpose into showing, into basically just getting that variety of viewpoints, getting that variety of perspectives, and also to get all Youth Congress members familiar with the legislative process and with drafting legislation, because that's part of what Youth Congress is about as well. So that is what I hope to fulfill by drafting this resolution, and I hope that the body feels the same way I do and supports this resolution. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone that would like to make a comment or have a question? Any amendments? There are none. Okay. Oh, yes.
I have a question.
Yes, I yield to a question.
Okay. The one I wanted to ask about is the stipulation of 6 months. I wanted to ask why did you choose 6 months? I feel that 6 months that would require at least at the most 3 resolutions or bills per term, or 4. Have you thought of requiring at least every 4 months, every 3 months?
6 months was me being trying to find a generous solution. If the body feels that this resolution should go further and be more stringent, then I would be open to the amendment if anybody, if somebody such as yourself would like to make that amendment. Yeah, that would be great if that's how the body would like to sway this resolution.
Okay.
I have a question to pose to the body. If someone introduces a bill, as they're required to every 6 months, if we pass this resolution, and that bill doesn't go anywhere because of committee meetings, is there something that should be amended in this bill, this resolution as well, to address holding committee meetings?
I can address the question just by stating that it's not enough to be introduced, it also does have to be placed on the session agenda. And I do understand that if the committee does not move it out of committee and place it to the Committee on Rules, then to be placed on the agenda, then that's where this rule might become a problem. I think that, well, I mean, some committees might have a problem getting out the bills and resolutions, but I think that at the end of the day, if a bill is seen as prominent enough, and if a bill has been seen to be in the committee too long, I don't doubt that the Committee on Rules will not bring it out of committee. But if addressing the lack of committee meetings is something that you would also like to address, I feel like that would be another great thing to include, but maybe into a separate resolution. But yeah, I just would say that I feel that the Committee on Rules would move forward a bill or resolution, recognizing that this would be a requirement, and recognizing that bills and resolutions do need to come out of committee in the first place. And if it doesn't come out of the committee that it was sent to, then Committee on Rules will deal with the bill or resolution in the way that they see fit.
Are there any other? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. While I don't believe the only way to meaningfully represent in the Guam Youth Congress is to draft original legislation, I do believe that this resolution lends to a lot of original perspectives coming out in increasing the output of meaningful legislation. However, that said, I think that the 6 months is a happy medium, especially when you consider that not every bill or resolution will necessarily be passed out of committee. Also, I think that's the 6 months periodicity satisfactorily solves the problem of legislation not being, I guess you could say, of there being no legislation for a given month and resulting in the cancellation of session. I think that 6 months, they're about 4 per member. With what we have right now, say, quorum is conservative 12 or 14. That's 48 to 56 pieces of original legislation every term. That's more than enough to ensure that session is had on a monthly basis. I think that more volume isn't necessarily the most important thing. I think if we increase the periodicity, it might create an unfair bias against, more conservative members, and I think I'm kind of the opinion that, to put it in metaphorical terms, a lower spike rate is more meaningful, So it's for that reason that I am in support of this bill, but I believe that the 6-month periodicity requirement is a good frequency for requiring representatives to draft original legislation, especially when you consider that the drafting of legislation isn't the only way that members can meaningfully contribute. There's also proposing amendments, speaking out for or against bills, the process that occurs during committee meetings, etc. So I guess that's all I have to say on that. And I'm in support of the bill as is. Thank you very much.
I just have another concern to bring up. I know we kind of addressed it earlier, but I kind of want to address it again because I think it's important, because we have had this happen before where someone would introduce a bill and the committee would never hold a meeting, and the bill would have to be pulled out late out of session into session, and then we just ended up sending it back to committee. So I would I think it would be this legislation would be more whole if we were to add in more responsibility to the committee chairs, so that way we can be able to enforce, kind of guide this, make it easier for all of us to have our bills be introduced. So I just want to point that out, because if there's someone that would like to make an amendment, or if the sponsor of the bill would like to make an amendment to that.
Point of inquiry,
Yes.
Madam Chair. Would that constitute another resolution, as it's another subject matter?
I'm not entirely sure, but if you read the last section of the title, it says, in order to ensure that representatives are fulfilling their duties of representing their constituents through legislation. Legislation is the whole process of getting that bill into there, which I believe includes committee meetings and committee members. So I can see it going either way. It really depends on the body. Representative Valencia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think if you want, you can pose the amendment, and then we'll see what happens.
I'm going to call a 3-minute recess. The 31st Guam Youth Congress session is now in order. Representative Santos, you are recognized.
I make a motion to pass on file Resolution 7-31.
The motion has been made to pass on file for Resolution 7-31.
A point of inquiry, Madam Chair.
Yes, Representative.
Madam Chair, are we allowed to, or just for the benefit of the body, are we going back to the resolution and talking about it later? And then talk
Yes,
about it later?
we are. We're gonna put this resolution aside as we work on it, and then we're gonna move on to resolution number 8. Then we're gonna come back to resolution number 7.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So there's been a motion to place resolution number 7-31 onto the file. Is the pass on file, I'm sorry. Are there any objections? There are none, motion carries. Okay. Okay. I call on Representative Valencia to chair.
Vice Speaker McDonald, you are recognized.
Thank you. So resolution 8-31 is relative to removing 3 representatives that have either left island or have graduated from the schools that they're representing. It's a very simple resolution. We've done this one before for one of our past representatives. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about it. I make a motion to place resolution 8-31 on the second reading file.
On the motion, okay. Vice Speaker McDonald, you are recognized.
I make a motion to place this on the third reading file.
Any objections?
Objection.
Representative Rodriguez.
I'd like to suggest that we make an amendment to this resolution to notify the schools that these representatives currently we're representing that there would be a vacancy so that we can open it up and hopefully include members within the next most available time. So that would be an amendment to this one.
Sorry. Representative Rigetti, are you proposing an amendment to the resolution?
Yes.
And what is that exactly?
Let me figure that out.
Point of inquiry. I
Yes, Madam
believe that
Vice Speaker.
there were some, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if all of these representatives were representing schools, or were there some that were representing, okay, I guess that's a question. Were there some that were representing a village?
Representative Chan represented the Academy of Our Lady of Guam. Representative Al Labang represented John F. Kennedy High School, and Representative Ethan Perez represented the municipality of Dededo.
Okay, so therefore will we have to make the amendment so that we send it to the mayor of Dededo as well?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
So Representative Rigetti, so on the last resolve clause, we're adding to the principal of the Academy of Our Lady of Guam, to the principal of John F. Kennedy High School, and to Mayor Melissa Savars, Mayor of the municipality of Dededo. Is that right? Okay. On the amendment, any members would like to speak? Then let's vote on the Representative Casilla.
Just a question on how the process would go into filling those vacancies. Would that go through appointment or through
Special election.
special election? Would it be special election?
Is that a question to the chair or the author?
Just in general for everybody, because I'm not sure.
Well,
I don't believe that Senator Biscoli as long as she's been presiding chair, has accepted recommendations. I believe that because special election is due this November, that's when these vacancies will be filled. And we will be we're working on the special election and notifying all the municipalities and schools with vacancies to let them know that they have a representative vacancy open.
Okay, thank you.
On the amendment, are there any objections? If none, the amendment passes. Representative McDonald.
I make a motion to move it to
Third reading.
third reading file.
Are there any objections? If none, so ordered.
I guess you can go back to resolution 7 and just talk about it a little bit more.
Someone make a motion to.
I make a motion to move resolution number 7-31 back onto the second reading file.
Are there any objections? If none, so ordered. Can you take the chair?
Representative Valencia, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to direct the body to page 2, the first line. The resolution states that if a representative fails to do so, they will be deemed unqualified for their position as a member of the Guam Youth Congress in accordance with Section 7108, Chapter 7, Title 2, Guam Code Annotated. I just wanted to pose a question to the authors of the resolution with regards to the qualifications of a member of the Youth Congress, because the law currently, or that particular section that was cited in the resolution, states that the Congress shall be the judge of the selection and qualifications of its own members. I'm just wondering if we have specific qualifications for, or what determines that a representative is qualified for their position in the Guam Youth Congress.
Speaker Santos, will you yield?
Yes, I will yield. The section states that the body itself can decide the selection and the qualification of its members. We, in our standing rules and in the Youth Congress law, the Youth Congress law does give certain qualifications in itself, but I have cited this part of the Youth Congress law giving the Youth Congress the power to deem who's qualified for Youth Congress and use that to pose this resolution in order to just in the medium that we would, that this is seen as a vehicle for us to decide whether we have the, it's a medium for us to decide whether, to decide who is qualified and to decide who serves as a body with us.
Representative Valencia, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in support of the resolution. It's just that that the qualifications that the previous speaker cited in the Guam Code Annotated, or whatever is in the GCA, the qualifications are usually just age, and if you're a resident of that municipality, or if you actually go to that school. I'm just wondering how sponsorship of a legislation in the Youth Congress is in line with those qualifications?
Because the Youth Congress law gives the body the power to decide the qualifications, as well as including the qualifications that have been set out to us by law, this resolution, I see it as a way for the Youth Congress body to enact that power to decide the qualifications. So through enacting a resolution like this, and if the body is so willing to create a more detailed list of qualifications, we can work on that too. But this is just one way that we, as a body, can enact the subsection 7108 of Chapter 7, Title 2, Guam Code Annotated.
I think, Mr. Speaker, I believe that using the word qualifications sets everything else up to be judged, and I know that is not your intent, but just the word qualifications in itself, it presets standards already, and standards that can be manipulated through someone else's, through different ways. So what we can do is, I believe we can either define qualifications, to where it's broadened enough that we're not able to. Okay, yes, Representative Stiles.
If I may, thank you, Madam Speaker. If I may, I'd like to propose an amendment to line 3 of page 2, amended to read annotated, due to their lack of participation, their position in the Guam.
There has been an amendment made to line 2 on page 2 that will now read, a member of the Guam Youth Congress in accordance, or I'm sorry, wrong line. Line 3, page 2. Due to their lack of participation instead of qualification. So is that clear to everyone? Okay. Now we can talk on the amendment.
I object to that amendment basically because the particular chapter that I cited and the particular subsection that I cited, the language that was used as qualifications. But if the body feels that we don't have to cite this particular section and we can just enforce this resolution within the standing rules itself, then we can take out the citations themselves and we can continue on with using the body, using the phrase participation, but also taking out the citations in the Youth Congress law. But if the resolution passes, then the resolution can still be enforced as a part of the standing rules ourselves. So if the body so wills that this amendment passes, then I'll make an amendment as well to just remove all the citations in the Guam Youth Congress standing law.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
I'm sorry. But we can still enforce this within our own standing rules.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. There hasn't been an objection to the amendment. We are now going to take a vote unless someone else wants to speak on it, on the objection and to the amendment.
Would we be making an amendment to the amendment? Is that what you're doing, Mr. Speaker? No?
No, he's objecting to the amendment.
Another amendment on top of that. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Let's just focus on this one right now. So, yes.
I think that the wording here is kind of, a little bit tautological. It says due to lack of qualification, but if you're the citation would be kind of recursive, like to the resolution itself. So it's kind of, tautological in that respect. I don't see how it's citing, how it would be citing itself. And I think that basically the purpose of this resolution is to kind of just officiate and something that would otherwise be, in the power of the legislative body to do anyway. So I don't know. I'm obviously for the amendment. I proposed it. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Representative Richards.
I agree with the amendment because even though they're not participating, they aren't necessarily unqualified because they meet the age. They don't have any disagreements with the municipality or the school. I think they would still be considered qualified, but we can remove them because of their inactivity, their lack of participation. Thank you.
Is there anyone that is against the amendment other than Speaker Santos? If there are none, then let's take a vote. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. Okay, the amendment passes. Okay. Yes, Speaker Santos.
Madam Speaker, I make a motion, or I make an amendment to strike in accordance with subsection 7108 on line 2, page 2. I make a motion to amend to strike in accordance with subsection 7108 chapter 7 title 2 Guam Code annotated. And on line 4, I make a motion to strike in accordance with subsection 7105 chapter 7 title 2 Guam Code annotated. And the reason why I make this amendment is because the Youth Congress, the way that I had drafted this resolution, I had cited the Youth Congress law that says that the Youth Congress members can deem who is qualified. And that was kind of the motive for using the word qualification. And if the body feels that the using of the word qualification is not the proper medium to enforce this, but if the body feels that this resolution is still enforceable without citing the Guam Youth Congress law, then we can go ahead and move forward with the resolution without citing the Youth Congress rule or the Youth Congress law, and just have it as an amendment to the standing rules itself. So that is the amendment that I make.
Okay, there has been the amendment to strike out in accordance with Section 7105, Chapter 7, Title 2, Guam Code annotated. And was there another section? This one, right? And the other one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Line 2 and line 4.
Line 2 and line 4. Are there any objections to the amendment? There are none? None? No objections? Okay.
Just point of information, if the word we're keying in is qualification, I don't think there was an amendment addressing line 1 of page 2 and saying they will be deemed unqualified.
Onto my amendment, I will I would like to add to my amendment. Wait, would I have to make an amendment to the amendment? Okay, we can pass the original amendment and then I'll make another amendment.
Okay. Let us vote on the original amendment to strike out the sections and the Guam Code annotated. All in favor? Okay, the amendment passes. Okay, now let's move on to your second amendment, Mr. Santos.
I would like to amend, okay, so. Madam Chair, would I be able, would anybody be able to read what page, or from line 16 on page 1 to line 5 of page 2 currently reads? Would anybody be able to clarify that?
You mean like read it out?
Yeah, like read it out.
Can you? Yeah. One moment, Representative Casilla.
Point of inquiry, Madam Chair, is this with the amendment that just passed?
As it stands now with all the current amendments,
Thank
yes.
Section 6.04.10, legislation minimum. Each representative must draft or sponsor at least one bill or resolution that will be introduced and placed on the session agenda every 6 months. If a representative fails to do so, they will be deemed unqualified for their position as a member of the Guam Youth Congress. Due to their lack of participation, their position in the Guam Youth Congress as a representative shall be vacated. And be it further.
Thank you. Speaker Santos? Oh, I'm sorry. Just Representative Casilla, go ahead.
Are you already in the process of making the amendment?
He's
Okay.
trying to figure it out. Would you like?
I'll go ahead and propose the amendment.
Okay.
And so starting, let it read, starting on striking out lines 1, 2, and, okay, start off at page 1 with line 16. If a representative fails to do so, their position in the Guam Youth Congress as a representative shall be vacated due to their lack of participation.
Okay, just to clarify, let me read it out. So, if a representative fails to do so, their position as a member of the Guam Youth Congress, due to their lack of participation,
Shall be vacated due to their lack of participation.
so then we would have to strike out their position in the Guam Youth Congress because it's twice. Yes?
I'm putting out the amendment to read as
Okay,
what I
okay.
said.
Okay, okay, no problem. Okay.
Point of inquiry, would it be simpler to just change unqualified to unfit and keep everything as is?
I believe that's kind of the same thing because if you're unfit, then that
Right,
kind
right,
of.
but instead of crossing out everything that's written, can we just change one word?
I don't
Would
believe.
that?
Yeah, I don't believe unfit would be fit for the.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome. So let's just vote on this amendment made by Representative Casilla. All in favor of the amendment saying, if a representative fails to do so, their position in the Guam Youth Congress shall be vacated due to the lack of participation. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, the amendment passes. We can now go back to you, Speaker Santos.
Madam Speaker, may I ask for the current reading of the section again?
May we have the current reading of the section?
Each representative must draft or sponsor at least one bill or resolution that will be introduced and placed on the session agenda every 6 months. If a representative fails to do so, their position shall be vacated as a member of the Guam Youth Congress due to their lack of participation. And be it further.
Thank you. Representative Santos.
Madam Chair, though the resolution has been amended, I still feel that this resolution can do the original intention of the resolution prior to the amendments, because in order to as it stands now, I feel that the resolution can still do the intention of making sure that Youth Congress members enact legislation on behalf of the youth they represent.
May we please make room for one of our representatives back there? So we can give him a mic, please. It's easier if someone just switches seats. Thanks, guys.
I would like to make an amendment for page 1, line 16. on the session agenda once per term. Hear me out. Sorry. Due to the many members of Youth Congress and many more to come, I feel that once every 6 months there will be cases like in time, long term, there will probably be like bills that have already been made that there will be many bills that have been made, and then there will be a point in time that people will be scraping the bottom of the barrel to find new bills to make just to meet the qualifications of being a youth member.
So your amendment is session agenda once per term.
Yes.
So once every 2 years that a representative serves.
Point of information, Madam Chair, the qualifications terminology is like, we took that out, but yeah, I do understand that your amendment, the intention of your amendment, just the qualifications itself is no longer how we're processing this resolution anymore.
Okay.
Okay, so I know your concern. I just want to point out that I know your concern is that people are going to be making bills out of thin air because they have nothing else to introduce, or they don't believe they have something to introduce. I just want to share with everyone that we are working on a bill for committees, and that will kind of satisfy, I believe, this part of this resolution if it was to pass, because then you wouldn't be the only person sponsoring. The committee as a whole could sponsor a resolution or a bill or any other legislation. So just want to keep that in mind, because before we move on to say how many exactly is too much, we do have another resolution that is coming up that will kind of satisfy that every 6 months.
A point of inquiry, Madam Chair. So when we say that the committee can sponsor a bill as a whole, would the representatives would that fulfill their obligation in terms of this resolution? If a committee sponsors a bill, will the representatives in that committee be relieved of their obligation?
Making a point of inquiry.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can take that. I don't think that, our standing rules allow committee members themselves, or the committees themselves, to sponsor legislation. Whether that would count for this requirement, I don't believe that it would. But I believe that the point that this resolution is trying to make is that, the point in referencing an amendment to standing committees is that when standing committees can meet together, they can work on bills and resolutions, not necessarily to sponsor as a committee itself, but they can work in their capacity in the meeting itself to sponsor legislation to fulfill the quota that the current resolution that we're working now requires. So it wouldn't, but the intention is still there that if the meeting can happen, then more. If a meeting with a committee meeting with like-minded individuals who all share a passion for the committee that they're in can happen, and they can work together to draft legislation under their sponsor names, then the intention of both resolutions can still stay the same.
I also want to point out that I'm sure my fellow committee chairs can also say this. If someone introduces legislation and they really are just scraping the bottom of the barrel, it is pretty obvious. And as a committee chair, I'm pretty sure it's in our duties and in our responsibilities to kind of either amend it or just push it back to sponsor. So that way it wouldn't even be introduced. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's just the main duties of being committee chair. And having a committee is to keep people from scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I know it might sound scary because you're given a timeline to do stuff. Yeah, I just think that's, I just think that's just kind of like common sense when it comes to being in the committee. So, yeah.
A point of inquiry. I'm not sure if Representative Richards' question was answered with regards to.
I believe it was a point of inquiry. It wasn't really a question.
I believe Speaker Santos.
Point of information, yes.
Yes.
Not a point of inquiry.
Yeah.
But yes.
I believe Speaker Santos said that committees, if a committee sponsors a bill or resolution, it would not fulfill the representative's obligation, right?
Yes, but that doesn't stop committees from sponsoring.
Right, but
it just doesn't qualify under this resolution, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that the committee would be technically viewed as a separate entity from the parts that make it up, correct?
I think what you're trying to say is that, well, I think to clarify what's going on right now is that the committees themselves can hold a meeting. They can try to sponsor a bill. They can try to create a bill, but the sponsor wouldn't be the committee itself. It would be someone who has brought up the idea to try.
So committees aren't allowed to sponsor.
Committees are allowed, but it is up to the committee themselves. It is up to the committee to themselves if they want someone to fulfill that or not. That is within their own committee meetings. So that is up to the committee and the people in the committee to decide if they want to give that person the sponsorship or if they want, yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So is there anyone else that would like to make any further amendments to this bill or?
Point of information, Madam Chair, I don't think we've dealt with Representative Felician's amendment yet.
Okay. Okay, so the amendment was once every term. Once per term. So is there anyone that would like to speak further on the amendment? Yes.
I would just like to point out that if this resolution were amended to read once every term rather than once every 6 months, it would be functionally impossible to enforce.
That is very true. Okay, so is that an objection to the amendment?
Yeah, I object to the amendment on the bases stated therefore. Yeah.
Okay, so there has been an objection to the amendment. And point of information, it is not enforceable because if someone doesn't do it every term, then they're already out after the term ends. Or is that what you were trying to get at? 'Cause yeah, that's what I understood too. Okay. If they were going to do it once per term, then why make the resolution if they're already going to be out after the term?
For the amendment?
Yeah, so there has been an objection to the amendment. Is there anyone else that would like to speak, or can we go to voting? I guess we're going to go to voting. Okay. All of those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Okay. We have 3. All of those opposed to the amendment, please raise your hands. Okay, the amendment passes. The amendment does not pass. I am so sorry. I take that back. The amendment does not pass. Okay. Yes, Representative. Do you have a question? Okay. Can someone please make room for...
Hello. Okay. On page 2 of the bill, on line 10, and cost to be prepared on a quarterly basis. So when removing these representatives, you're saying that the secretary has the duty of, checking every quarterly of removing them, and she has to draft the resolution of removing that certain representative that
Can
failed.
I just point out that this is a section in the Guam Youth Congress. This isn't what he's amending. The only thing that he's adding into this bill is and sponsorship of legislation. So if you want to, you can continue to ask your question, but I just want to point out that that's not the main focus. Like if you look at the title, it's section 15.03. That's a totally different bill.
Okay.
Already in the standing rules of the Guam Youth Congress.
Point of information, Madam Chair. So the legislative secretary pretty much prepares a report every quarter, and then we give that report to our oversight chair, or she just keeps record every quarter of what happens in the Youth Congress. So the sponsor, I guess, is just adding the part where she has to also keep record of who's introduced legislation, so that we can keep record of if they don't or do not, and if so we can check if they're qualified or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the underlined section is the only part that's been added. Everything else in the where it has the quotation is already law within the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, and removing them, it would be a separate bill for us?
If you're gonna get removed, separately, this is a separate conversation. If you're going to get removed, we would either make a resolution like we were talking about 8-31 or the one with Representative Larkin, or you would have to either resign as a Guam Youth Congress member. So those are the two ways to get removed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah. So don't make enemies here.
I just need a...
Yeah, I like... Yeah, I won't say it, but...
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to... Yes, where are we at right now? Okay, so Representative Santos, are you ready to make a motion on your bill or resolution?
I can make a closing statement. I just want to say thanks everybody for participating in the discussion, and thanks for all the amendments to get this resolution to where it's at. I feel as though the resolution itself can still enforce the overlying duty that Youth Congress representatives, a part of the responsibility and a part of the learning experience is to practice drafting legislation. And for that reason, I do hope that with the current amendments, I do hope that this resolution passes, and I hope that the body supports this resolution. And that being said, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to move Resolution 7-31 to the third reading file.
There has been a motion to move Resolution 7-31 to the third reading file. Are there any objections? There are none. Motion passes. I call another 3-minute recess. Yes. The 31st Guam Youth Congress is now back in session. I call to the chair, Speaker Santos.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. Moving on to second roll call. Would I be able to get a second roll call?
Mr. Speaker, can I make a motion to have second roll call reflect first roll call?
There's been a motion to have second roll call reflect first roll call. Is there anybody opposed? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Moving on to the consideration of the daily file. Could I get the third reading file?
Resolution number 8-31, as amended on the floor, introduced by Representative Keandra M. McDonald and Javin W. Santos, relative to removing Representatives J.C. Chan, Al Labang, and Ethan Perez of the 31st Guam Youth Congress due to no longer being qualified to serve as a member of the body. Representative Adawag. Representative Carranza. Representative Casilla. Representative Delory. Representative Dichoso. Representative Fajarin. Representative Felicen. Representative Makepeace.
Aye.
Representative Keandra McDonald.
Aye.
Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Plus.
Aye.
Representative Quintanilla.
Aye.
Representative Richards.
Aye.
Representative Rigetti.
Goodbye.
Representative Santos.
Aye.
Representative Stiles.
Aye.
Representative Valencia.
Aye.
Representative Carranza. Representative Dichoso. Representative Adawag. Representative Delory. Mr. Speaker, resolution number 8-31 is duly passed.
With unanimous vote, resolution 8-31 hereby passes.
Resolution number 7-31, as amended on the floor, introduced by Representative Javin W. Santos, relative to adding a new section 6.04.10 and amending subsection A of section 15.03 of Iminay 31 na Kongresun Manhobin Guahan Otin Acclamentu, 31st Guam Youth Congress standing rules in order to ensure that representatives are fulfilling their duties of representing their constituents through legislation. Representative Adawag. Representative Adawag, aye. Representative Carranza. Representative Carranza, aye. Representative Casilla.
Ongan.
Representative Casilla, aye. Representative Delory. Representative Delory, aye. Representative Dichoso. Representative Dichoso, aye. Representative Felicen. Representative Felicen, aye. Representative Makepeace. Representative Makepeace, aye. Representative Keandra McDonald.
Aye.
Representative Keandra McDonald, aye. Representative Kenny McDonald. Representative Kenny McDonald, aye. Representative Plus. Representative Plus, aye. Representative Quintanilla. Representative Quintanilla, aye. Representative Richards.
Ungan.
Representative Richards, aye. Representative Rigetti.
Aye.
Representative Rigetti, aye. Representative Santos.
Hungan.
Representative Santos, aye. Representative Stiles.
Yes.
Representative Stiles, aye. Representative Valencia.
Aye.
Representative Valencia, aye. Mr. Speaker, you receive unanimous consent.
With a unanimous vote, resolution number 7-31 hereby passes. Moving on, brief extension of remarks. Does anybody have anything they wish to say on the agenda we had today?
I just want to let everyone know that the resolution, was it 9 that we're working on, is going to be introduced next session, but we are hoping to enforce more committee work for everyone because, like I've said before, it's happened where it didn't even go through committee, we pulled it out, ended up getting back to committee. And so I think it's important that all of us kind of take our chairing and our committee groups more seriously. So, yeah.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the agenda today? Seeing as there are none, moving on to announcements. Representative Casella.
Welcome back to school.
Yay. Does anyone else have announcements? If anybody wants to buy Java Junction tickets, I'm selling Java Junction tickets for the committee to elect Senator Talina Nelson. So if anybody, okay. Okay, that's it for me. Anybody else have any announcements? Representative Stiles, did you have an announcement?
It's good to be back.
1 month hiatus. Anybody else have any announcements they wish to make? I guess it's back to school, so no one's really like fundraising yet, huh? Seeing as there are none, I guess we can move on to adjournment. Can somebody make a motion to adjourn the session?
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah, Vice Speaker.
I make a motion to adjourn this Guam Youth Congress session
To reconvene at the call of the
and to reconvene at the call of Speaker.
Speaker. There's been a motion to adjourn session today. Does anyone oppose? Seeing as there are none, motion passes. Session adjourned.